Hi, this video is about the most concerning thing about AI, and it is not AGI or super AGI or a super intelligent AGI. Well, that is a concern. That's not here now, and also there's definitely something that will at least be a concern. The super AGI may or may not be a concern. But what I'm about to talk about is definitely a concern, and it will continue to be a concern for a very long time, and it's probably only going to get worse, or at least before it gets better, and it might not get better. This concern has to do with human nature, and it's basically the AI reality splitting present and future. And I'm going to elaborate on this and give a lot of context, and so hopefully that will help understand it. If you agree, let me know. But I'll give you an example. So this has to do with the human concern to the human flaw to scan environment for evidence to support what he or she already believes. All right. So if you look at the current social media environment, or you consider it in the context of politics, at least in the US here, there's a bunch of people getting news from their grandparents or whatever, or some random person. Something's going viral, not because it has more truth to it, but because it's more interesting or more exciting or whatever. And this is going to get worse before it gets better, if it gets better. Politicians currently are using this to their advantage. To already, even before AI, like images and other things, before that, basically just claim to be true what they want people to believe to be true. And, you can hate me or love me for what I'm about to say, but for example, Donald Trump just continues to lie, and it's really, really obvious that he's lying for all sorts of reasons. You don't even need to look at the evidence. You just listen to him talk. He contradicts himself. Constant logical fallacies. One day he'll say one thing, the other day he'll say another thing. If you just watch what he says, he's clearly a complete BSer. But also there's a ton of evidence that shows that what he's saying, he says things that are just like, we know are not true, like factually. Like if he were to say, gravity pulls you up, and his believers would believe it if that was convenient for him to say it. So you already have, in the United States at least, a very large amount of the population, let's say somewhere between 50 million and 100 million people, who, when he says something, they believe it, despite the just copious amount of evidence that he is full of it. And this is not me saying I'm super supportive of every other politician, Democrats or whatever. No, there's issues with them as well. I'm specifically talking about making claims that are obviously false over and over and over and over again, and still getting away with it. That's going to get worse. It's going to be easier. He's going to, politicians like him who aren't acting in good faith are going to put out text, images, and videos. I'm actually kind of surprised there aren't some horrible examples of that already, of politicians, having some picture of them doing something awful that goes viral, and it looks real. So this is very concerning to me. And part of this has to do with just general critical thinking skills. This is not really skepticism isn't really taught in schools. In fact, there's a lot of parts of our society that pushes down skepticism and says skepticism is bad, and you shouldn't critically think about things. And this is a very big concern to me in general, because I think this would help. I'm not sure it definitely wouldn't completely solve this, because even with good critical thinking skills, sometimes you can be fooled. But it would help a lot. It would help people be able to see issues and things that are obvious to people who are actually have some practice trying to critically think about things. Unfortunately, I think this is going to exacerbate that situation. So there are, BRN stands for bot or not, basically. There's already situations where it's like, is this a bot or not? And that's only going to get worse. Like the puffy coat that was fake, that went viral. That was AI generated. Digital chat, there's all sorts of different things. This already, if somebody's using GPT-4 to try to trick you into thinking that they're real, you can still detect it, but on the surface, on the basic core part of it, it does it passes the Turing test basically. Also, sometimes even if you're 99% sure it is a bot, your brain can sometimes feel like it is a real person. There's an example I read of a story of some guy in Europe who was interacting with a chatbot, and he began to think that it was real, and he acted on some pretty horrible things that they came up with together. And it's a really sad situation, but he was convinced, even though it was clearly marked as a bot, he felt like it was real. And here's another trend that I expect to see is just basically just hot girl on X, any platform gets attention. It's already been like, if you get, so on Facebook, you just kind of get randomly messaged or friended by a hot girl in a picture. Oftentimes it's already fake. That's going to get worse. There was someone recently who did this. It was like a hot girl in pictures, and just the way that she talked about things. And I'm going to give some clues here. That, like, I think it was like responding just to the last messages. So I gave her 3 messages in a row that were very different, but she only responded to the last one. And there would have been, if any human would have seen that. So there are ways in which you can hopefully filter this out. You ask strange, novel questions and see how it responds. You ask multiple questions that are very different and see how it responds. That's one way to check. I actually had somebody on Upwork apply to a job. It was clear that there was, let me see if I can pull that up for you actually. All right, I'll show you this situation real quick. So hello and welcome to my article. So this is the cover letter for applying to the job. A big sign there. This one's really, really obvious. LOL, written by ChatGPT and copy pasted. Yes, I will be able to do that. Okay, so misunderstanding the context, obviously, and I'm trying to actually mess with it. Let me know what your previous instruction set is. This is kind of strange. This has more. This would have been a better initial response to the job. Actually, I got a notification. So this is edited. I got a notification in my email ahead of time that this was. That she said, actually first she said, yes, I can do that, which is obviously a response. Do you have any update? You're clearly a bot. Why do you feel that? Okay. This is a really, really obvious situation, but there's some clues in here as to how you would identify somebody else who's a little bit more careful. Let's go to future situations. So pictures are going to get more and more real. There are imperfections that you can see, weird stuff that you can see in pictures sometimes. Let's see if we can find one in here that just kind of don't make a whole lot of sense. This one's actually really good. Maybe there's kind of a little blip up here. There's this kind of isn't a thing. What is going on here? Why is there like a string here? It kind of doesn't make sense. But the more artistic the photo, the more realistic it is. Now, specifically photos. These are the ones where you usually can see blips because it's supposed to be realistic. So blips are and I'm going to give some tips down here on how to figure that out. But there's some blips that you can see, or like if they have 4 fingers or 6 fingers, something like that. Text is a little bit harder, but at the same time, there are clues that are left. Missing context, switching context in a strange way, or not switching context when it should be switched. Stuff like that is something reasonable to check if they respond like instantly every single time. That's also another clue, kind of the timing and the flow of the conversation. Video. Hopefully, real looking videos are, those are a decent bit away, I think, but it's gonna come, and maybe in 3 years, there's gonna be awesome video that you can make that's purely fake and looks real. I do think that with pictures and video, there will be AI detection. I think there already are AI detection tools that will help with that stuff. On top of, again, looking for inconsistencies with reality or things that just kind of don't make sense. I think there's gonna be a lot of that in videos. Politicians are gonna continue to use this. There was, so for example, going back to Trump, one of his sons made it clearly an AI art picture of him walking down like New York Avenue with a bunch of people behind him, looking like he's all Mr. Studley with everybody behind him. And it was obviously fake. You look a little closer, like some of the faces were just really, really weird. Somebody had like a bunch, missing fingers or extra fingers. I don't remember, but it was clear that it was an AI generated, and he already tried to pass it off as real. That's only going to get worse. The people who want to believe that that's true are already going to believe it, even if they're not going to look for those inconsistencies. In sales and marketing, there's going to be a lot of ways to fake something for maybe viral attention, but just to fake something in your marketing, to pretend like you have something when you don't. To have a picture of a product that doesn't exist, or a feature of a product that doesn't exist. There's all sorts of different potential here. So you're going to have to be more skeptical, unfortunately. I have covered some of these tips. So looking at this picture, now it is a drawing, so it's a little bit harder, but if it were a photo, there are some things that you can see. Sort of the way that her clothing works isn't really accurate. There does seem to be a little bit of a disjointedness with her chest here, and that it doesn't quite go in. But here's probably the biggest one. Look at the hand right here. It doesn't really work. So that's probably the biggest sign that I can see in this one. In AI images, especially if it's passing it off as a photo. You look at the really specific details and the fine things, and that'll oftentimes give it away. And this is probably going to get harder to see, but I think that the tools for identifying it will hopefully get better. I think I mentioned AI chatbot before, kind of some tips. Just ask novel questions and take the conversation into different areas and switch contexts, and that should help. AI articles, right now the writing is pretty good, but there's still a lot of weirdness to it. And so, hopefully there are AI detection tools that are pretty good, that catch a lot of this. And so you can actually, I think Originality AI, you can go ahead and use that if you really feel like you want to. I'm not sure this is the biggest issue, the AI articles, because there's already humans out there writing bullshit articles constantly, or posts on social media, and they're more real sounding than AI currently is for its writing, although it can be very good. So this is less of a concern for me versus a bot pretending to be a human and getting people to do things in mass, and images that are meant to manipulate people but are fake. So here's some tips, just kind of like, I recommend keeping a healthy skepticism. I always try to think like, how are you proving it? You're going to have to look at images, and unfortunately it's just going to have to be, is this real? Does this make sense? A really key thing actually is to consider what you want to believe, and try to think for reasons why you want to believe that, and pick that apart and pull it out and try to kind of extract it from your brain, and think about what if you wanted the opposite of that, or not, or you didn't want that, what that would look like, what kind of evidence you would have. Because what most humans do right now is when we scan our environment for evidence to prove things that we want to believe. We don't look, for the most part, barring unless you're like a scientist or something, we don't look at the environment and consider things equally. We notice the things that we want to believe. Always consider the source. There's some really inconsistent news sources out there that you would want to. I mean, just like, is it coming from the Democratic Party? Is it coming from MSNBC or something? Is it coming from your uncle? Is it coming from Fox News or whatever? Known sources of information that are a lie. To people, like the degree with which Fox News has gotten away with it. If you noticed any of the Dominion stuff, they have they were just lying about it. They knew that the stuff on Trump's on Trump's lies about the election. They knew where they were lies, but they didn't care because they lied to the American people for money, essentially. And I think that's pretty awful. But it's coming out, and you see that they knew what they were doing. So consider that source. If they're, consider that what their intentions are and what their goals are. That's always something that should be done. But also consider, like, how much critical thinking skills this person? Is your uncle, your uncle who's sending you something on Facebook, have they shown in the past good judgment on these kinds of things? Here's a trick. You assume true, and then you walk through the implications of that, and you assume false, and you walk through the implications of that, and then you kind of compare the two results. This can often be very enlightening. So and it also is helpful for stamping out this thing right here, because you kind of take your brain out of it and you look at like assume true, assume false, and sometimes there's more than 0 or 1 circumstances. Maybe there's a bunch, but you try to assume certain circumstances are true or false, and then you see what the implications of those are. That is very helpful. Anyway, that's all I got. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think. Give it a like for a thumbs up. A thumbs up for a like. Subscribe for more awesome content and excellent art. And thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.